The Advanced Combat Theory lecture hall at the Galactic Naval Academy hummed with the soft bioluminescence of its walls, casting pale blue light across 300 cadets from 47 different species. Professor Xelthar, a Vaxorian with 6 eye stalks and a reputation for brutally honest assessments, gestured with 2 of his 4 arms toward the holographic battlefield suspended above the lecture pit. "And this," he chittered in Standard Galactic, "is why Deathworlders should never have been admitted to the Academy." Doralee Vaughn sat in the human section, all 12 of them, and felt the familiar weight of those words settle on her shoulders. She didn't look up from her datapad where she'd been taking notes on flanking maneuvers. This wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. "Their tactics are barbaric," Xelthar continued, zooming in on a simulation of the Battle of Proxima Station. "No finesse, no elegance, just brute force and an alarming willingness to die." "We prefer to call it determination, Professor," Doralee said quietly, still not looking up. The lecture hall went silent. You could hear the environmental systems cycling air through the ventilation. Speaking back to Professor Xelthar was academic suicide. The Vaxorian's eye stalk swiveled toward her. "Cadet Vaughn, how generous of you to finally contribute. Perhaps you'd like to explain to the class why your species thinks ramming ships into stations is a viable military strategy." Doralee finally looked up, her dark eyes meeting several of his simultaneously. "Because it worked, sir. We won that battle." A ripple of clicks, chirps, and uncomfortable shifting moved through the non-human cadets. Armand Chen, sitting 2 rows behind Doralee, grinned despite himself. "The girl had titanium nerves. You survived that battle," Xelthar corrected. "Barely, and only because the enemy was too shocked by your barbarism to press their advantage." He waved a dismissive appendage. "Class dismissed. Except you, Cadet Vaughn. We need to discuss your attitude." The lecture hall began to empty, a slow exodus of students filing toward the exits. Armand hesitated, catching Doralee's eye. She gave him a subtle shake of her head. "Go. I'll be fine." He lingered anyway, taking his time packing his materials. That's when it happened. 4 Krellian cadets, each standing over 7 feet tall with exoskeletons that could deflect small arms fire, had positioned themselves near the rear exit. As Doralee descended the stairs from her row, the largest one, a cadet named Threk, stepped directly into her path. "Deathworlder," he growled in heavily accented Standard. "You embarrass, Professor. You embarrass Academy." Doralee stopped 3 steps above him, which put them almost at eye level. "Excuse me. I need to get through." "You need to learn place," Threk said. His 3 companions formed a semicircle behind him, blocking the exit completely. The last few students still in the hall quickly found other routes to leave. Professor Xelthar had already exited through the instructor's private entrance. The hall's security cameras, Doralee noticed, had their indicator lights off. "Convenient, last chance," Doralee said, her voice carrying that particular flat quality that Armand had learned to recognize. It was the tone she used right before something spectacular happened in combat training. "Move!" Threk made a sound like grinding gravel, Krellian laughter. "Make me, Deathworlder. What happened next would be analyzed frame by frame in the Academy's disciplinary hearings for weeks. Afterward, Threk reached for Doralee with one of his primary claws, a move that should have been impossibly fast. But Doralee was already moving. She dropped her datapad, letting it clatter down the stairs as a distraction, and pivoted inside his reach. Her elbow struck the nerve cluster just below his mandible with surgical precision. 2 seconds. Threk's eyes rolled back, his nervous system overloaded. He toppled backward like a felled tree. The second Krellian lunged from her right. Doralee caught his claw, used his own momentum to spin him, and drove her knee into the weak point where his exoskeleton segmented at the thorax. Something cracked. He went down wheezing, 5 seconds. The third and fourth came simultaneously, which was a mistake. Doralee ducked under a wild swing, grabbed the third Krellian's arm and pulled him into the path of the fourth's charge. They collided with a sound like a shuttle crash. While they were tangled, she swept the legs of the third and delivered a palm strike to the audio receptor of the fourth. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, but more than enough to shatter their equilibrium. 12 seconds. Silence descended on the lecture hall. Doralee stood at the bottom of the stairs, breathing only slightly harder than normal, surrounded by 4 Krellian cadets who were variously unconscious, whimpering or trying to remember which way was up. Armand, who had watched the entire thing from behind a row of seats, slowly stood up. Holy shit. Doralee looked up at him, and for just a moment her professional mask slipped. There was something wild in her eyes, something ancient and absolutely terrifying. Then she blinked and it was gone, replaced by the tired expression of someone who'd been through this dance too many times before. "You saw nothing," she said. "I saw self-defense. That's not how they'll see it." Doralee retrieved her data pad from where it had landed 3 steps down. 4 injured cadets, 1 human. They'll say I overreacted, that Deathworlders can't control their violent instincts. The hall's doors burst open. Security drones flooded in, their weapons charging. Behind them came Commandant Vexthor, the Academy's highest authority, his scaled face unreadable. "Cadet Vaughn," he said, his voice like grinding stones. "Stand down." Doralee raised her hands, palms open. "Already down, sir." Vexthor's eyes swept the scene, taking in the 4 Krellians who were just starting to stir. Medical teams rushed past him, scanning the injured. His gaze found Armand. "Cadet Chen, what happened here?" Armand stepped forward, his jaw set. 4 cadets ambushed Cadet Vaughn at the exit, sir. They verbally threatened her, blocked her path, and initiated physical contact. She defended herself using appropriate force. The entire engagement lasted approximately 12 seconds. Appropriate force? Vexthor gestured at the 4 Krellians being loaded onto grav stretchers. "She sent 4 cadets to the infirmary. They'll recover in a few hours, sir," the medical tech reported. "Minor trauma. Nothing permanent, though." The tech, a small Litherian with compound eyes, hesitated. The strike points are incredibly precise, almost surgical. It's like she knew exactly how much force to use to incapacitate without causing lasting damage. Vexthor's expression shifted, just slightly. He looked at Doralee with something that might have been respect. "Is this true, Cadet Vaughn?" "I was taught that overwhelming response often prevents escalation, sir," Doralee said quietly. "They needed to understand they'd made a mistake. But I didn't want to seriously hurt them." "She could have," Armand added. "Sir, with all due respect, she pulled those strikes. I've seen her in combat training. If she'd wanted to cause real damage..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Vexthor was quiet for a long moment. Then he tapped his communicator. "Professor Zelthar to Commandant's office immediately." He looked at Doralee. "You too, Cadet. We're going to review the security footage, all of it, including the 30 seconds before your self-defense when the cameras were mysteriously disabled." Doralee's expression didn't change, but Armand saw her shoulders relax slightly. The Commandant was actually going to investigate. As they exited the lecture hall, Armand fell into step beside Doralee. "You know you're going to be a legend after this, right?" "I don't want to be a legend," she said tiredly. "I just want to be a cadet." Too late. Deathworlder Doralee has a nice ring to it. Despite everything, she almost smiled. "Shut up, Armand." Behind them, one of the Krellian cadets groaned as he regained consciousness. The medical tech leaned over him. "Don't move too quickly. You've been struck by a Deathworlder. You're lucky to be alive." "Lucky," the Krellian mumbled. "Didn't feel lucky." "That," Armand said to Doralee, "is because you're terrifying." This time she did smile. "Just a little. We prefer to call it determined." Cadet Chen. The investigation that followed would clear Doralee of all charges and result in the expulsion of the 4 Krellian cadets and a formal reprimand for Professor Zelthar. But more importantly, it would become required watching for every new cadet at the Academy. A 12-second lesson in why you should never, ever corner a human who's asked you politely to move.